need to move the
If you use swapping
the opposite
sarcastically, it can be
a little, okay. Do you think I could just have you just move a little bit closer?
Rachel?
Yeah.
Shit.
No. Did you say 6?
Oh, sorry. I did the wrong math. One day I'm going to learn to add. That's why I'm not a mathematician.
Awesome.
Okay.
Rach, I'm good.
We're good? We're good?
I'm not
Yes.
a mathematician.
Oh yeah, I don't know many.
Okay.
I know. Exactly, that's my whole point.
All right. How did you guys feel when you found out you would be singing in this movie?
I was a little nervous. It's something that I've done a little bit before, but not at this level, and not with songs that are so iconic and mean so much to so many people. And also having the real person there, like kind of watching you, is really helpful and a little scary at the same time. So I was a little nervous, but I quickly had to get used to it.
Kristen, Joan Jett, I think, said she was on set and she heard you singing, but she thought it was her. How do you feel to hear that?
It's nice of her, but like I always say, if I can hear the difference, I know she can hear. I mean, I think that the one really awesome thing about Joan is that she's so supportive and encouraging, and that's always going to make you be better. So I'm sure that's probably what she was doing, but that's very nice, obviously.
Okay. This movie's really, I think, a lot about female empowerment and sort of girl power. So tell me, what do you guys, both of you, what do you think the definition is of female empowerment?
Well,
And being an empowered woman.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I think it means like so many different things to different people. Like that's such a general. I think female empowerment is female empowerment. It's like people, specific. Well, go on.
What do you think about being, a woman in 2010 and just sort of being able to kind of have a different, sense of...
I love how you say 2010. Like, that's a proud thing. No, you're right. No, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, you're sort of going back to the 70s, and you're playing these women who kind of are breaking out of their shells, teenagers, kind of rebelling. So, do you think that it's different now? Had you had you been a teenager? I don't know what I'm saying, but
I know what you're saying. I totally know what you're saying. I think that we still totally. I didn't grow up I grew up thinking that I could do whatever I wanted, and that's an enormous difference because Joan thought the same thing, but that wasn't a wide-scale belief. That wasn't something that everybody thought, and so she didn't understand when people said that it was inappropriate for her to be doing what she was doing, that she didn't look right. She wasn't girly, or she wasn't right, and we, to a certain extent, have definitely overcome that. I feel much more. I can say whatever I want, and I can look however I want, but we are definitely put in boxes. Annoyingly so, and
How so? You mean as a female actress?
Yeah, I guess I can only talk about my... Although, I'm sure if I wasn't an actor, certain people would still say, I don't care. But, yeah, especially compared to guys, I know for a fact, because I've known so many actors personally, and also, I'm interested in it, so I pay attention. And guys have more room for personality. You're allowed to be yourself. You're, allowed to have... you're allowed to be different, and people don't really comment on it. But as a girl, you have much, much less room to be yourself. It's just weird. Everybody has to be the same.
So what would you say Joan Jett taught you about being a woman, or being empowered, being liberated?
Well, I think she just sort of reinforced everything that I already think. I always, despite, the fact that I think all these things, I say whatever I want, I look however I want, that doesn't mean that I don't sometimes question myself and feel insecure. And it's hard to feel that way around Joan, because she just is so innocently confident. It doesn't even cross her mind not to. She doesn't care. You know what I mean? She literally doesn't care, and it's contagious. So.
Dakota, you play Sherry Curry, who's a huge David Bowie fan.
Yes.
Are you a David Bowie fan?
I am, definitely, and I also listened to a lot of David Bowie during the making of the movie, because she is so into David Bowie, and that's who she kind of emulated when she was on stage, because she thought he was the ultimate performer, and she just kind of pretended to be him, and that's where she got her stage confidence from. So yeah, it's very important to her. And
How
she, oh, go ahead.
No, you.
Oh, and she let me wear this belt that she made that has his face on it, and so I wore that in a few scenes. It's cool.
And did she make it like back in the day?
Yeah, she made it back then, and she wore it all the time, and let me wear it, so that was cool. Yeah.
And you still have it?
No, I gave it back to her because it's one of the few things that she still has, because she gave a lot of like her costumes and her clothes to fans, and it's like one of the things that she still has. So
Okay.
she has it.
You guys get to wear some great, crazy, outrageous things in this movie. But I'm interested in your personal style in real life, and I was hoping you guys could take a stab at describing each other's personal style.
Gosh, that's so funny.
That really scares me.
Well, I stole her like long T-shirt thing today. I told her earlier.
I only wear big T-shirts, and
Yeah,
she
she has
usually
to wear
wears the
these-
smaller T-shirts.
Yeah. Okay, Dakota. I think she's more into clothes than I am. I know that. No, she's more into clothes than I am. And she's much more, like, she wears different stuff all the time. And, like, look at her shoes. They're crazy. And we're doing a press junket.
What are these? Do you know?
They're Sam Edelman.
I don't know. I think she's really cool.
And big T-shirts.
Big T-shirts for me.
Okay, what about Kristen?
I think that Kristen dresses a lot for what, like, she's comfortable in, and like and yeah, I think what she's comfortable in, and she wears the small T-shirts that I can't wear.
So weird.
This is weird.
I'm done. Okay, that's it. You're done. Thank you. I love you, man.
Okay. Tell me, you guys have grown up as child actresses. You started really young, both of you. Do you feel like you sort of had to, both of you had to take on this kind of adult, grown-up lifestyle? You're in the public eye a lot. Was that something that you could relate to about these characters, that they, were young girls and they kind of were going through this very crazy, wild ride in their lives? Do you draw from that at all?
I can definitely relate in that way of like being in the public eye or whatever, or having fans. But also they grew up in such a different time, and they were on their own, and they didn't have any like adult supervision or like any rules that they had to follow. And for me, I've grown up always like surrounded by people and having to do school on set and only work so many hours, and they didn't have any of that. They were just like completely free to do whatever they wanted, which is actually really cool. But at the same time, I think that's why they fell, or especially Cherie fell into some of like the bad pitfalls that you can fall into when you're just kind of on your own figuring it out for yourself.
Right. Will you guys do me a tiny favor and look in the camera and say, I'm Kristen Stewart, I'm Dakota Fanning, and you're watching ELLE.com.
I'm Dakota Fanning,
I'm Kristen Stewart.
and you're watching ELLE.com.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Ready.
Forget it.
All right. Michael Shannon, you played Kim Fowley in this great fun movie.
Oh, cool.
He's a total character.
Yes.
What did you think when you first met him?
Wow. It was a little overwhelming because I had been watching him on the internet. I had been watching interviews he had done and studying him almost kind of religiously. So when I actually met him, it was kind of like, a priest meeting Jesus or something. It was just like, wow, you're real, you're here. He was very sweet to me. He wanted to tell me everything about his life, and he didn't have a lot of time. We were having dinner. Me and him and Kristen and Joan Jett went to this Denny's in the Valley, and he brought all these clippings and pictures, and he talked a lot about his childhood and his parents, and then he started talking about music, and at the end of it he just said, all right, so that's everything. That's everything about me. Now, unfortunately this movie is probably how people are going to remember me when I'm dead, because, they'll go see it and they'll think that you're me, so don't screw it up. I was like, thanks for the pressure. But no, he's a really sweet guy, and he's older now too. This has been like 35 years, so a little older.
So I know he was joking, but did you feel pressure to sort of get him right?
Oh yeah. I always I'm always a little reluctant to play real people. I feel like there's something kind of impossible about it. Like even if you do a good job, you're still not them, you know, and they're, particularly with someone like him who's so interesting, it's like, not only do I want to try and be like him, but I want to try and be as interesting as he is. So it's it is a lot of pressure, yeah.
Have you ever thought about who you would want to play you? The Michael Shannon story.
Oh my God, I'm just trying to remember. Remember what happened in my life that would warrant a screenplay. Let's see. I don't know. I think probably Russell Crowe could pull it off if he really worked at it. You know,
You
he couldn't just walk through it. It'd have to be like, you know, when he did that guy in Beautiful Mind or something. He really had to
take it on.
Yeah.
So in this film, your character really kind of tries to milk these girls' talent for everything that they have.
The story of the world.
Was it fun to play this calculating kind of character? Did you feel skeezy at all at any point, or did you just kind of embrace it?
Well, it's, you know, again, it's weird because it's based on something that actually happened. Like, if it would have been like a product of my imagination, maybe I would have felt a little more embarrassed by it. But it's just the way it was, you know, and they all seem at peace with it nowadays, like Joan and Cherie. They're there on the set and they're watching it and they say, yeah, that's kind of what it was like. So I guess, yeah, the fact that it was something that actually happened made me feel a little less shy about it.
Right. I heard that Floria, the director, when they brought your name up, when Art Linson brought your name up, she was set on casting you, and it had to do with a lot of things, including your height, but also they just fell in love with you, and that she started filming before she booked you. So how does it feel to know that she wanted you that much?
It's very flattering. I mean, I'm aware of some of the height issue and some physical similarities between us. Although I was quite self-conscious when I was shooting because he's really thin. Like I don't need to go to Weight Watchers or anything, but he's like a praying mantis. I mean, he's so skinny, and I always felt like I was too fat or something. But yeah, having her want me that badly was very flattering. And I guess in a way it also contributed a little bit to that pressure I was talking about earlier. Because anytime somebody wants you that badly, you don't want to let them down. Because I'm not exactly sure what she was going on. I don't know if she had seen. I guess she had seen Revolutionary Road or something. But yeah, it was very flattering.
Speaking of Revolutionary Road, you were nominated for an Oscar. So, as an actor, what do you set your sights on after that happens? I mean, what's the next goal?
Oh, wow. Well, I've been acting for almost 20 years, and I've always been motivated by a desire simply to want to tell stories. I mean, I'm not even necessarily interested in getting a bunch of attention personally for being, considered a genius or whatever. I just like being involved with the thing as a whole, So, the trick is finding like good writing and interesting stories to tell, and that nomination I think helps maybe, because those scripts, when you get a good script, it's a pretty coveted thing, and they can get the best people, because that's what all actors are waiting for. They're waiting for a script that's interesting. So it gets me on that shorter list of people that get to see that really good script, and that's what it's worth.
You get to wear some really flamboyant, colorful outfits in the Runaways. So how transformative were the costumes for you? How did they sort of contribute to it?
Oh, very, very important. Costumes were very important. And that costume designer did an amazing job because, like you said, they started shooting before they even knew I was going to be able to do it. And so she had like 2 days to run around and buy all this stuff, and she just nailed. We had a lot of photos to go on, and she would just photo after photo, she would get it exactly right. Like this is what he was wearing that day. This is what, so she did an amazing job, Carol. But yeah, when you put on those clothes, it's not something I don't think. If I would have showed up dressed like this, I don't know if I could have pulled it off. I mean, it's part of it, and it was part of it for them too. I mean, that's why they dressed that way to begin with. That it made them feel special or different. So it certainly helps us, the actors too.
You were just a kid in the late 70s.
Yeah, I was born in 1974.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when the Runaways were together. So do you know what you were listening to then, or what your music tastes, how they sort of...
Well, I really liked that period of music, actually, the late 70s. I mean, I didn't really start listening to music myself or picking my own music until I was in middle school, maybe. I mean, the first cassette tape I ever bought, it was cassettes when I started, was Phil Collins' No Jacket Required. I went out and bought that with my own money and listened to it repeatedly.
What was your favorite song?
It's just such a great album from beginning to end. I mean, some days I'd be in the mood for Inside Out. Some days I'd be in the mood for Susudio. Some days I'd be in the mood for, Billy, Don't You Lose That Number is a great song. It's also interesting because Steely Dan has a song that says the same thing.
What do you mean?
Don't they have that song? Oh, no, that's Ricky, Don't Lose That Number.
Oh.
Yeah, isn't it? It's Steely Dan has one and Phil Collins has the other. But it just makes you aware of how important phone numbers are and that you shouldn't lose them.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah. Although if you get too many cards in your wallet, it can be a hazard. If you put it in your back pocket, you can screw up your spine. So you gotta be careful. Well, you don't have that problem.
Use your cell phone, right?
Yeah, but I don't use my contacts very much. Because I want to be able to remember phone numbers. You know what I mean? I want to be sharp.
So you remember everybody's phone number?
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like if you just put them all in contacts and it gets fuzzy up here.
It does. Let me ask you, since this is for Elle magazine, Elle.com, how would you describe your personal style if you had to?
Well, this is a red shirt. Well, I like things with the dragons and stuff on them, because I'm really into kung fu and stuff. So.
You're into kung fu?
No. But I like this shirt. My dad got me this shirt when we went to Hong Kong. So, let's see. The nice thing since the Oscar nomination is people give me clothes. Like I get these really nice jeans from Seven for All Mankind.
Mm-hmm.
They're really nice. And then these shirts from Calvin Klein. They give me stuff now. They gave me my tux to the Oscars and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, they've been very nice.
What article of clothing could you live in that you own right now? You could wear every day.
Probably my onesie. I have a really nice onesie that I wear when I go to sleep and I snaps up.
Like a butt flap?
Yeah, it's a little flat. Makes it easy to go to potty. Yeah.
Kim Valley is
Yeah,
coming out.
coming out.
What do you always pack when you travel?
It's always such a rush job. It's like the last thing I do before I leave the house. I socks. Because there's nothing like getting stuck without some clean socks. It's really embarrassing, particularly when you have to take your shoes off at the security. Once I did that and I had dirty socks on, they gave me a lot of shit for it.
They did not.
Yeah, they did. I took my shoes off and the guy was like, "Oh man, get the lice all over here." I was like, that's really embarrassing, you know? I mean, I'm just trying to follow the rules and protect America here. And you're calling me out on my stinky socks.
What movie have you seen more than 10 times?
King of Comedy. The King of Comedy movie. It's
The one
by
with,
Martin Scorsese directed it. Oh, you're thinking of the Kings of Comedy.
Comedy, yeah.
That's pretty funny too. But this one is King of Comedy is Robert De Niro, Jerry Lewis, and Sandra Bernhard.
Favorite line from that?
Oh my God. What is my favorite line from that? I don't know if I have a favorite line. I have a favorite scene from it. It's when it's all about Robert De Niro and Sandra Bernhardt crash. Jerry Lewis is like a big nighttime talk show host. He's really famous. And they go out to his mansion in like Connecticut or somewhere, uninvited. But Robert De Niro's acting like he's been invited. So they go into his house and he's got this Japanese butler who doesn't know what's going on. Finally, Jerry Lewis comes in. He's been playing golf. He's like, "What are you doing here? I didn't ask you to come here." That scene, that scene's one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen in my life.
Awesome. Do you have any irrational fears?
Yeah. Interviews, cameras, lights, middle-aged men. No, just kidding. Yeah, I do. I get freaked out in museums. I can't go into a room in a museum by myself. If there's no one else in the room, I won't go in there. Because I'm always afraid that I'll turn around and the painting will be like moving or looking at me or something. So museums freak me out, yeah. That's serious. I'm not kidding. Yeah, seriously.
Time for one more question.
Okay. Tell me, this movie is about, obviously, hard rock music.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Oh man, it depends on the genre. Fugazi puts on a hell of a show. I don't even know if they play anymore. You know Fugazi?
Mm-mm.
You ever heard of them? They were a hardcore band from DC. They used to be, well, Ian MacKaye, the lead singer, used to be in Minor Threat. Then he started Fugazi. They're pretty darn good. Damn, what else? I don't know, I saw the Grateful Dead with my dad once. And he smoked a joint. It was pretty funny. So that was pretty funny, yeah.
Michael, would you do us a tiny favor and look in the camera and say, "I'm Michael Shannon, and you're watching ELLE.com."
I'm Michael Shannon, and you're watching ELLE.com. Now go do your homework.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Amazing. Do you wear all black a lot?
I'm trying to stay away.
Really?
But as you see, I can't.
There's a very powerful pull to be all black, especially in New York. Like, I try not to do it. But
I know, and I live in
people-
LA now, and I'm like
Yeah.
the one in black in LA.
Mhm.
But you know, we're getting out of fall, we're coming out of winter, and
Yeah. We need
Kinda
some color.
yeah,
I know.
kind of.
I do. I love
Ready,
it.
Kev? Yep.
So I apologize in advance for asking you questions you've probably already answered a million times.
A million times in the
But
last week.
I know. But let's just start. We just want to know a little because you started as a music video director. So when you signed on to direct this movie, did you your vision, do you kind of start with the music? Are you thinking about it in terms of the music, or how do you approach it?
Yeah, the music informed me a lot too. You know, the lyrics of the songs kind of showed me sort of the things that they were interested in. So I kind of start there, but and obviously the attitude too, and kind of coming from that world and being married to a musician and being on tour, I kind of know it, you know. So for me, it was to get into the acting, you know, kind of because I felt comfortable in doing the live stuff.
Okay. Your husband is in a band.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of
Living Things.
Living
Rock and roll.
Things, and it's rock. Okay. And you mentioned the lyrics of the music. So Cherry Bomb, I know, is sort of the anthem.
Yeah.
And it's in the trailer, and it's kind of Sherry Curry's big number. What is that song about?
Well, why I love that song, is one of my favorite Runaways songs, is that they wrote it for her. I mean, they pluck her out of this club and they wrote it for her in, 20 minutes, 15 minutes while she was waiting. And, but it's not about her because, they don't know her. So they write this song about her, and by the end of the film, she becomes the person in the song. So there's an arc that happens. So for me, that song's kind of important. But also just the story behind it, I find it really intriguing.
Okay. What do you think? I mean, is it sort of about like sexual power or sexual politics? I mean, how would you what did
Well,
you
the
think?
girls own their sexuality on stage. I think they were sold kind of maybe a little more derogatory, kind of sex kittens, and can they actually play, and jailbait. So I think that they were sold a little bit wrong, and that kind of it upset the girls, but
but if you look at sort of the transformation, kind of Kim's putting these things in their heads too. So, and especially Cherie Curry's head, which I think as a character, it's hard for her to deal with all this stuff.
Speaking of Kim, we just met with Michael Shannon.
Amazing.
Such a trip. And hilariously funny. And I know
was he in
that
character or was he being himself?
I think he switched in and out. He had a few characters.
Did he swear a lot?
He didn't swear.
Oh.
But he had some really deadpan delivery.
Good.
I know that you started shooting this movie and he wasn't yet signed on, but you kind of pushed for him. So
I kind of pushed for him.
You pushed for him.
I met with him, and I didn't see anybody else for the role. So I didn't know who was going to play him if he wasn't going to play him. So I kind of held out, and it worked. Which is I haven't talked to him about it, what he was thinking on the other side. But
good. But what is that like? You sort of have an instinct about something that you can't let go of. I mean, you're the director, so do you feel this pressure to kind of put your foot down about things?
I felt that with everybody in my cast. Once I locked eyes with them, I felt like it was right. There wasn't any talking about anything else. But it felt like for me this film kind of all the stars aligned because I feel like the actors were perfect for the roles. Like everything just happened. And not necessarily that it happened very easily, but it happened and kind of still in a quick amount of time, And because we were low budget, we, didn't have all the luxuries, and also time was of the essence too, so we had to move fast.
Right. So you say when you locked eyes, how did you feel when you met Dakota and Kristen, obviously? Like, why them? And, like, if you could speak just a little specifically about the two girls and having seen them before.
Well, Kristen Stewart, I saw her in Into the Wild, and she, had really great presence, and she was very dynamic. Captivating, in that film, and she emoted tons with her eyes. And when I met her, she had this quality, the same quality I found in Joan, that had this sort of toughness but shyness at the same time, which I thought she'd be perfect. And she could sing, and she could play, and so she had that same demure, And then when I met Dakota, being the same age, I was super excited. She was the same age as Cherie Curry. But and she had this like sparkle in her eye, So she had this this freshness, even though she's been in the business way longer than I have, and so that felt really perfect, and so it felt like when I cast those two, it felt like everything else kind of just happened.
Okay, what was the biggest challenge in getting this movie made?
Well,
I know there was some resistance originally when Sherry's book was sort of being shopped around, and I don't know if there was some pushback or what you.
When her book was being shopped around, to who?
Or I think it was.
Tell me that
Kenny
kind of thing.
Laguna, right? He was started taking the book around and just didn't have. I don't know like what the holdup was, but if there were some.
Oh, I don't know. Well, when I became involved, they had already purchased the rights to the book.
Okay.
And then I became interested because it was, these girls, these young girls that were talented, and they had a dream of forming this all-girl rock band, and they were doing things that other girls weren't, girls that weren't allowed to do at the time. And they were kind of putting their necks out and coming against some walls, but doing it nevertheless. So I really respect them for that.
What kind of teenager were you? Did you have that sort of rebel streak?
Yeah, I had a rebel streak. I was hanging around the wrong crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very arty. I spent a lot of time also on my own, drawing and painting and kind of figuring myself out. But
you went to art school.
I went to art school, and then I remember going on a trip to Detroit to see my cousins, and then my life changed. She took me to some clubs and introduced me to, sort of the music of Iggy Pop and industrial music and, secondhand clothing and just being much more theatrical with your parents, and I came back kind of a different person. It was like a mind blower for me.
What did you feel had changed within yourself? I mean, how did
Well,
you
I
feel
had
it
it there, you know, coming from growing up with opera singing parents and growing up in that world, doing my homework at rehearsals. I was always around theatrical, you know, sort of costumes and big personalities and stuff. But the world, once I walked out of the house, the world that I grew up in, Hamilton, a small town, was kind of a tough town. So there were fights all the time and stuff like that. So, you know, it was there. All those elements are there. You know, like if you look at the film, like all those elements are there. It's sort of like, you know, having to be maybe a little tougher just to kind of survive. But I've always been interested in, you know, the theatrics of things too, and expressing yourself through your clothes too, or just through your appearance. You know, and that was a time when people individuality kind of, it was very kind of, you created your own identity. You made your own outfits. If you were into something, you made it. You didn't go to the goth shop. You didn't go to the punk shop. You didn't, you know, which we have everything of now.
Right.
And you really had to make. You had to put your own studs in your pants. You had to make your own T-shirts. You had to, and I love that about that. And that's what I love also about, you know, my time when I think back at art college and that whole time and being influenced by my Detroit trip was just all of a sudden I was doing my art on me, you know?
Yeah.
And it was, I think it's like a form of communication, especially when you're creating your identity as a teenager, a young person. You're communicating with the world, kind of saying, this is who I am, this is what I like, you know,
Right.
communicating through your outer appearance.
Let's talk about your personal style. Then, how would you say? I mean, you said studs on your pants and stuff. What was your look back then, and what were you trying to express? Do you think?
I would wear big. What would I wear? Like some kind of cocktail dresses, but it would mess. You know, kind of do like a faux mohawk, and I think I was probably. I don't know actually what I was trying to say, but that I was kind of interested in something that was out of the ordinary, you know, and kind of and to kind of open up boundaries, like when you know, kind of everything's okay. You know, what I always try to do is challenge the sort of think differently, you know, not and you don't have to kind of conform, and every person fits in the world somewhere, and it's very important for me to be myself and for people to be themselves, I think. So it's a bit saddening when you see someone trying to really conform and not fit, not being happy.
That's a lot about what this movie is about too. Is these girls kind of, you know, especially I love Dakota when she, you know, puts on that outfit and the David Bowie streak across her face,
Yeah.
and you kind of see her come into this new person and this new identity, and you know, I think all girls can relate to that.
Yeah.
On some level, even if you've never been that extreme about something.
Yeah, and Joan has that too with the leather shop too. You know, I want what he's wearing. She's just really kind of stating it.
Yeah.
I'm going to create my own identity.
Right. What did your opera singer parents think about your style?
They're very courageous themselves, so you know, the wilder the better, really. One time, my mother, I had this old pair of jeans. My God, I had so many holes in it. It was basically falling apart. My mother was just tired of them. She threw them out, and she saw how upset I was because, you know, they had patched on them. I mean, I had worked on them. They, you know, and they were the real deal. It wasn't like they weren't this pre-faded thing that you see now. I really worked on them, and she saw how upset I was. And the next day, she had taken a pair of pants, that she had done completely a wear and tear job on them, put new patches on them, left them for me on the bed. So they're really kind of open-minded and really, you know, it's sort of really been encouraging my whole life.
That's really sweet. And how would you describe your personal style now? I mean, I know we talked about the all black in the LA and New York kind of thing, but how do you dress in LA?
Blending in LA.
Where do you feel comfortable in? Or how do people respond to you? You know, or sort of.
Well, I like kind of clean silhouettes and a little bit of tough edge, like sharpness to the silhouette, and anything that kind of elongates. I mean, I'm kind of into tall silhouettes. I don't know, I kind of mixed it up a little bit, kind of create, kind of make it classic and punky at the same time,
Okay.
a little edgy.
Okay. What movie have you seen more than 10 times?
Clockwork Orange and The Tenant.
The Tenants?
The Tenant, Roman Polanski's The Tenant.
Oh. I feel so uninformed.
And Christian F. Christian F. kind of inspired me with this film, a little bit like the raw look. It's a German film about
Okay.
this, it's a true life story. And had a real kind of cool look to it and youth to it.
What's your favorite scene in The Runaways? Either favorite to make or favorite to watch, or just most, you think it came together the best, or...
Maybe the studio fight. That sounds weird to have a favorite scene as a fight. It's kind of bizarre. But what I liked about it was I brought everybody back together, and then you could see it was like the accumulation of the years' experiences kind of coming to a head, and you saw their personalities, where they're kind of holding back before when Kim was in the room. He was really the ringleader in terms of, orchestrating what they were going to learn. And in the studio, they were kind of, especially Cherie, she was going to fight back and going to say, this is not what I'm going to do now. So, I like that because it gave her some strength.
Right. Can you remember the best music concert you've ever been to?
Yeah, I'd say Nick Cave. I've seen him a couple of times. Really, really amazing performer.
Okay, that's great.
And Living Things, actually. Lillian's an insane performer.
Really?
Hanging off rafters.
How did you meet your husband?
I was doing a music video for them in Prague, and we just got lost in the streets and hung around, and it was so beautiful and romantic, the setting. Yeah.
Would you do us a tiny favor and just look in the camera and say your name and you're watching ELLE.com?
And I'm watching ELLE.com?
No, you say I'm Floria.
Yeah.
So you
Oh,
say,
and you're watching ELLE.com.
You're
Okay.
watching.
Hi, I'm Floria Sigismundi, the director of The Runaways, and you're watching ELLE.com.
Perfect.
Cool.
Questions over and over.
They don't seem like the same questions.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we have 8 minutes with you. This is for ELLE.com.
Elle?
Elle, the magazine, but the website.
Love it.
Do you?
I love it.
So you talked to our film critic. Do you remember this? Karen Durbin did an interview with you on the phone recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good. It was really good. She's a talker.
Great.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of those.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes
So
like 5 in
before.
the morning or so. But I do remember. I do recall her.
Okay. It's okay if you don't.
No, I do. I do.
All right. Let's go. So, Cherie Curry, you wrote a...
It is pronounced Cherie, though.
Cherie, I'm so sorry.
That's not a problem.
Start that over.
That's okay, because I've been called Cherry, but it is Cherie.
Cherie, is it a French name?
Yeah.
And
I was named after my father's girlfriend.
really?
Cherie Starr, right, yeah.
No kidding. Okay.
I had a very understanding mom, didn't I?
Yeah, you certainly did. You're wearing a cherry necklace.
Yeah.
What is that?
This is a jeweler friend of mine, Roger Hallis, made this from my cherry tattoo. And he made one for me and Dakota. We designed it together, and now we're making them so other people can have them.
Really?
And yeah, and it's argentium silver and topaz, which is my birthstone, and I dig it so much. I thought maybe other people are going to dig it.
Really cool.
Yeah, so we actually, and it's made in the USA. Thank you very much. Otherwise, forget it.
Where can we get them?
They're going up on the website yesterday,
Okay.
and then we're going to make pins too. They're a little bit smaller
On the movie website?
on the Runaways.com.
Runaways.com.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Oh,
they're
that's
really
great.
not expensive either. They're really a fine piece of jewelry,
How?
and it comes with the chain and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
really
I love
groovy.
it. I love it. When did you get that tattoo?
When I was just turned 16.
Okay. And you were singing Cherry Bomb at that
That's
time?
right. That's
Okay.
what inspired me to get the tattoo. And Joan, I kept telling her, my sister, I had her draw the cherry on my shoulder. And I loved it, so I decided to go get a tattoo, and then Joan went with me, and she got a jet right here.
Really?
Yeah.
This experience, I don't know if you guys had kept in touch much or what your relationship was like, but has it sort of been kind of a reunion for the two of you in a way?
It has. And with my book, she wrote the foreword in my new book, Neon Angel, which is a complete rewrite, by the way. They keep thinking that it's just, putting out the old version, and it was entirely rewritten by me.
Okay.
And I told the stories that Preister and Sloan weren't comfortable talking about in the first young adult book.
Your publisher.
Right. That was my first publisher.
Okay.
HarperCollins. This is an adult version of what happened.
So it's sort of the real nitty-gritty.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that I was given the opportunity 20 years later. Actually, it was more like, about 24 years later, to rewrite the book, and because I hadn't quite forgiven myself when I wrote the first one with Neil Shusterman. And
forgiving yourself for?
I just had a whole lot of guilt. And so a lot of things, I would take the blame for everything, and not this time. This time I have no fear. I mean, and that comes with age, and it comes with just age.
Well, you seem incredibly at peace and sort of wise. What would you tell your 16-year-old self right now? Or what would you have told her then?
Wow. Well, it just would have depended on it would depend on what she was going through. I've got a 19-year-old son, so he had an earful from me from the time he was able to walk. But I would say no fear. Don't let that's the most destructive emotion I think that a person can have, is fear. Now, there's some healthy fear, which is the fight or flight. Those kind of fears are important, but fear to be yourself, holding yourself back with fear is just the worst. And I was trapped in that for a long, long, long time.
Did writing the book help you get away from that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing really bothers me now.
And that comes
Pretty neat.
With age?
That comes with age and having to live through all this again and again, things that no one would want to live through. Not just the Runaways, but I had some pretty tragic experiences happen to me. I was kidnapped by a murderer, and I barely got out alive. And I want this book really to inspire people that no matter how bad they think it is, it's not that bad. So the book comes out today.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What did you think the first time you heard Dakota Fanning would be playing you? Is that a surreal moment in someone's life? Or?
My knees buckled.
Okay.
I heard it from a very popular news anchor, Sam Rubin on the Channel 5 News, and my knees buckled. I honest to God, I haven't been so happy except for when my child was born, because she's just my favorite actress of all time.
What did you remember her from, or?
Oh my God, Man on Fire, I Am Sam, of course, War of the Worlds, the film she did with De Niro. I'd seen everything she had done, and she literally was my favorite. So I never in my wildest dreams would have thought this film would be something she'd be interested in doing, but she told me that she didn't think there was anyone else to do it but her. And I said, well, why do you think that? And she goes, well, what are they going to do, get a 26-year-old to play a 16-year-old? I thought, this girl really knows her business, She's wise, very wise girl.
Yeah, very, very poised and confident for someone that age, too. It's amazing to see it. What did you think of her performance?
Remarkable, moving, delightful, funny, powerful. Dakota Fanning. That's who Dakota Fanning is.
What is the song Cherry Bomb about?
It's about in your face, girl saying, listen, here I am, and this is what I want to do to you, and you kind of, young female empowerment song with a lot of nastiness thrown in.
If you, in like 10 words or less, if you had to tell me what teenage girls are trying to express at that time in their lives, what would you say it is?
I'm sorry?
Like if you had to say what a young teenage girl is going through, and trying to get
at 16?
Put out there, what do you think it is?
And trying to put out there?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for being stupid. But I'm not exactly understanding your question.
No, you, like the Runaways was so much about sort of rebellion and breaking out and kind of expressing themselves in such an extreme, volatile way. So what do you think, a teenager is going through that kind of makes them want to bust out that way?
Well, first of all, you're going from being a child to a young woman, so the hormones are raging, jealousies start flaring. You don't know really who you are. You're no longer playing with Barbie dolls, and all of a sudden Ken looks a lot more attractive. It's tough. It's really, really hard, especially in school, the peers, and who's pretty. I would not want to be a teenager again, I swear. I wouldn't trade being 50 for being 13, 16 ever again.
What about advice that you would give a girl who wants to be a rock star? What would you tell her?
If she really wants it, go for it. You gotta really want it though, because it's not easy out there, but have no fear and kick ass.
You were in a 1980 movie called Foxes with Jodie Foster. So I'm wondering if sort of being a part of this film has made you interested in getting back into movies or acting.
Well, if something comes my way, for sure. But there isn't any way in hell I'm going back out there and doing the cattle call stuff again. I don't want it bad enough. And I see people still out there doing it and pushing and pushing. It's just not me. I'd rather chainsaw carve, thank you very much. I have nothing to prove. I don't want to go, well, I'm a better actress, or sitting in the room, and all the women are looking at each other, sneering, I don't want you to take my part. I hate it. It's terrible, 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 terrible. So we'll see, I'd still love to give it a go. If it doesn't happen, I'm really very happy with the saw.
Wait, tell us what you do. I know you're a chainsaw sculptor, so if just for people who don't know what that is,
Well, yeah, I'm a chainsaw artist, carver, whatever. You pick up a chainsaw and you pick up a log, preferably redwood or cedar, softer wood, easier on the joints. And, I make mermaids and dolphins and bears and anything. I think I made just about everything. Sea life is my favorite thing, though.
Sea life?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where do you live? You're in California?
Yeah.
Okay.
I live in the San Fernando Valley, where I always have lived.
How would you describe your personal style? And do you think that it was influenced by your rocker years at all?
No, not at all. I kind of went more for the cowboy boots and Levi's. I've always been a Levi's cowboy boot girl. But I'm covered in gasoline and oil most of the time now, so I clean up okay, but usually I'm covered in sawdust, so it's now work boots.
Everybody wants to know what it's like to be in a rock band. I mean, everybody, even if they say they don't, they're probably lying. So how would you describe the feeling of being on stage at that microphone in front of hundreds of people?
Oh, it's total elation. Wonderful. I really wanted that. So it was great. And every time I get on stage now as well, I belong there. I always will. I don't do it very often, but I'm very lucky that I actually belong there. So
yeah.
I don't get nervous. No butterflies.
No fear.
No fear.
Talent.
It's a good way to live, girl. No fear. Remember that.
Cherie, could you do us a tiny favor and just look in the camera and say, I'm Cherie Curry and you're watching ELLE.com.
I'm Cherie Curry, and you're watching ELLE.com.
Perfect.
Cool.